What's up, guys? Ian here, coach of your Ladner Lanturn, bringing you guys a special video today. This is the championship match. Well, it's parts of the championship match for LET Season 8 Ultra Ball. Some context going into this, okay? I'm showing only the championship match because this is a Wi-Fi league, and not all of the games were recorded for my division. And actually, this was the only game of mine that was recorded at all this season. So that's the reason that you're only seeing this one. For very old viewers, you may remember my LET Season 1 videos, which you can still find on here. The quality is much lower than what I put in these days. It was right when I was first starting Draft League, so the battling's not really up to par anymore, and the video quality is much different. I was really just like commentating over top of like a YouTube video of my game being recorded off of like the replay of the game, so there's a lot of stuff there. But this one's a live recording from the spectator point of view of my championship match against Ruppy and the Columbus Swoo, who we've played a few times, and I'll give some context about Ruppy in a bit here as well. But yeah, so it's from the spectator point of view on LAN mode in Sword and Shield. This is the only Sword and Shield Wi-Fi league that I have and will do. It was quite a pain in the butt. Setting up LAN mode in the first place was really annoying, and then having to do it every single week was really annoying, but we plowed through it. I did this as a favor to the league. You know, I was an original coach here, and I did want to try and get back into playing Wi-Fi just to see what it was like in Gen 8. I played for the first 3 seasons. I completed the first 3 seasons with them. The first season we actually played all the way back in Sun and Moon. We started in like October 2017, right before Ultra came out, but we started in Sun and Moon, and then the following 2 seasons were in Ultra. I specifically have a memory of having a Kiram Black on my team and a Hoopa Unbound in like, it might have been season 2, but I didn't have the items that you needed. I think the Hoopa, I could like just get it by having the Hoopa, but the Kiram Black was a big one. And I didn't have the item you needed, and I hadn't like progressed to that point in the game, so I needed to like get through the Rainbow Rocket stuff at the end of Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, so that I could get the DNA splicers, so I could actually use Kiram Black in my matches. Alongside that, I'm pretty sure I had set aside my copy of Ultra Sun to Shiny Hunt Blacephalon. And I had to like rush through that hunt, get it as fast as possible, so that I could like actually use that copy to battle on. So lots of fun memories for me. That was pretty much, I think the entire thing was all back when I was still in university. Sounds right to me, at least, or like nearing the end of my my degree at university, which I'm now 3 years out of. So very strange, but that's kind of the context of like my history with LET. I've met a lot of good friends there. A lot of the guys that I originally played in LET with were like original coaches in NCL, and I don't think any of them actually played this past season, but a few of them have played in recent seasons as well. Where do I want to go with this? So this is going to be broken up in a couple parts here. This first part, I'm going to go through like the history of, the team that I picked up. I picked this up, I was a replacement coach, and so I'll go through like the history of what I picked up and whatnot, and we'll talk about my team for some context heading into the match, about what I built for Ruppy, and the context of what I'm bringing to this finals match that you're going to see the recording of. And then I'll split this up and I'll record myself talking over the video. I haven't found a way yet to record the video and me talking, so I'm going to have to do some fancy editing, which I'm not really terribly good at, but I'll try and do some editing where I can just record myself talking over a black screen or something like that about the match real time, so that you don't have to like pause or anything like that. But as I was going through, I'm sorry, this is gonna be really casual at the beginning here, but as I was going through and sort of breaking the fourth wall, but as I went through the recording, I realized that I wasn't gonna have enough time to like talk about team decisions and whatnot because the recording is live, like it's a spectator watching it. it's not a replay YouTube video like I used to record over back in the day in Season 1 here. So, yeah, not just I wanted to do the team builder thing. I wanted to set up the hype for the finals, talk about all of the context, the historical context that goes into this game. So, like I mentioned, I played the first 3 seasons here, and then I have not played the last 4 seasons, season 4, 5, 6, or 7. I believe seasons 4 and 5 were still in Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, and then they may have done 3 seasons in Sword and Shield now. That sounds right to me, because Sword and Shield came out in Q4 2019, so they would have had the opportunity to do a few seasons in 2020, and this season was all in 2021. So let's see, I picked up this team back in week 5. There were 4 weeks before I got to it, and the context for those is that it was already 2-2 plus 0 when I picked up this team. Now, I didn't make any drops. I made 0 drops at the time. I did make 1 drop to end the season. 1 set of drops, 1 drop to end the season. Before the trade deadline at the very least. But yeah, I was 2-2 plus 0. I really need to get this game done against my good pal TJ, who was one of the NCL OGs. Very, very good friend. And then we picked up the team and we went 6-1 plus 19, actually, with it. I only lost 1 game, and we actually ended up beating that coach that I lost to in the regular season in semifinals. I earned myself first place in the regular season with my record, which I believe. Let me just bring up some context here by opening the doc. 8-3 plus 19. So second place was Daniel, another good pal who's also an NCL original member, 8-3 plus 9, and then my finals opponent Ruppy was 8-3 plus 7. So there were 12 coaches. Top 6 made playoffs, and I finished first. I finished first by a large margin, not wins-wise, but by a large margin. I think that if I had had this team the whole time, like if they had dropped at week 0 and I had the opportunity to play every single game, this team did play Ruppy, and I think that actually helped contribute to his build, and did not contribute to any of the decisions that I made. So I think that would have been sort of interesting to see if this would have changed if Ruppy and I had played each other in the regular season, which we did not end up doing, since the previous coach had played him instead. But anyways, we earned ourselves a bye to the semifinals, basically, and we played the winner of 4 versus 5 because we were first seed, so we got the lower seed, because third seed is usually expected to win, and third seed did win. So we played the Columbus Cottonies again in semifinals, and this time I beat them. So we managed to the record that you see on your screen right now is my combined record of the regular season plus the semifinals match. So I just didn't want to spoil how the finals match went, but I do have my updated record in my front office. Back when I was in the LET, we didn't have different conferences, but there are 3 different conferences. There's the Great Ball Conference, the Ultra Ball Conference, and the Master Ball Conference. I think if I was still playing in LET, I would have been in the Master Ball Conference, but since I had just agreed to take over the team, they were looking for someone and knew that I was interested because I had expressed interest in signing up previously. They got me the Ultra Bowl team, and it's not like it's an unfitting difficulty level, but you can see by the record that I sort of had a leg up on most of the folks in this division in terms of skill. Not to toot my own horn all that much, but I just want some context here. And then finally, before we really get into things, I want to touch on. No, maybe I will touch on that before I go over the team in terms of my context and my history with Ruppy. So I'm just going to go through this really briefly, but this is the first part of my team that you can see here. So I picked up a Lando T, a Tapu Koko, a Kyurem, a Nihilego, Metagross, and a Arachnid. I didn't change these at all throughout the season. And then the second part of my team is a Talonflame, a Licky, and a Alolan Raichu, which was formerly a Sceptile that I ended up dropping for Alolan Raichu. They were the same price point, I believe. and they both filled the same sort of idea, just being like a terrain sweeper, but I felt that Alolan Raichu offered me a little bit more oomph than Sceptile did. Sceptile just, it was never pretty much ever coming to any matchups, and I didn't really need the speed. So that's why I dropped it for Alolan Raichu. Hitmonchan and Torracat. I think the Torracat came to 0 games, if I'm remembering correctly. But I think everything else came to at least 1, if not multiple. But a lot of the times, I'm not going to lie, I was pretty much just building with the first 6. And you can kind of see that with the teams here, is that I was pretty much just building with the first 6, like, for a lot of the weeks. I was kind of just slapping the first 6 on and just calling it a day. And it worked exceptionally well. I mean, this is a very balanced top 6. You know, it's got a good mix of special offense, physical offense, utility, like... There were multiple, 3 rockers, I think, in that top 6, a Weber, and 2 defoggers, as well as like a boots user, 2 boots users. Oh, that's something worthy to note, is that there is boots allowed. Yeah, boots was allowed. So that's all very interesting. And yeah, that's pretty much all that happened there. I don't really recall that there's anything else. But before I really dig into these teams, I'm just going to grab some water. So I'm going to stop the recording here, and then I'm going to splice the other part in next to this, okay? All right, we are back with the water now. And let's get into things here. So week 5, I took over, and we played my good pal TJ. I ended up winning. I had a funky Nihilego set, sub-toxic freeze-dry Kyurem, which just absolutely destroyed him. He had pretty much nothing that could handle this. His whole team was weak or neutral to freeze-dry, except for Cryogonal, which I managed to toxic and wear down quite efficiently. I had some decent checks. You know, at level 50, there's some funky EV spreads. Like this Coco is a bit of a funky EV spread. I had a Banded Landorus. He had an Urshifu single strike, which was really threatening. And I think my check to that was meant to be something. I think it was the Lando. And it didn't matter because I just died. I think it was like Banded Urshifu, and I straight up just died to the to the Urshifu. But this is a fun one. I remember winning this one quite handily though. I think we had to play part of it in call because we kept disconnecting. It was the only one where I really had big problems disconnecting. No, maybe we only had to replay once. There was another one where I had big problems disconnecting. Week 6, we took on, geez, who is this? PokePrimer and the Anaheim Appletons. I've played PokePrimer before in other leagues. There's a Volcarona and a Torn T on this team. This was really threatening, but I seem to remember handling this one pretty well. He relied too much on his Manectric to try and carry him through this one. He missed a gunk shot on a lone Persian. There's a bunch of hacks that he thinks mattered, and I'm still in the... I don't think that it mattered, really. But I had a lot of cool tech, like Rock Slide Kyurem for his Volcarona that never got to see the light of day. I think Life Orb Metagross just sort of pounded some stuff later in the game. I can't exactly recall. And then Nihilego might have cleaned this one up. It's hard for me to tell. This was so long ago. I mean, this is back in April, and it's now August. I'm just getting around to filming this finally, because I figured it was probably worthwhile to show off. But yeah, you know, it was an impressive season regardless of the result at the end. Muddy and the Green Bay Stackas, who we played back in NCL Season 1. I played Muddy a few times over the years, but this one I had a lot of disconnect problems, and we ended up finally being able to properly recreate. I got like a crit early on, and he got a burn or something really early on, so there's a lot of like weird stuff that had to happen for us to recreate this one, but I seem to remember this funky Lando just like actually destroying a lot of his team. He was really weak to this particular set, and I think it picked up like 3 or 4 kills for Coco to clean up in the end game. I think I was able to lock myself into Thunderbolt and just win. I don't think anything else is really relevant, but you can see I've brought a Solfest Nihilego a few times in a row. Then we took on the Kanga City Kangaskhan, and I decided to spec into a Berry Nihilego for a Lucario. But I also think that Metagross just ended up winning this game. I was able to like sort of smash through this team. I had Electric Terrain, boosted Thunder Punch to kill a Vaporeon. There's a Clefable that dropped to a Meteor Mash. I can't exactly remember what happened as well early on there, but I know the Talonflame never saw the light of day. A few cool sets there. We took on the Colorado Agrons, which I also won. This is a double terrain team with Lele Rillaboom, and I seem to remember the Rillaboom was like actually Overgrow or something, so that it wasn't changing the terrain all the time. But I felt forced to bring Coco. Anyways, there's a lot of stuff that didn't come that I was expecting to this one, so it kind of threw me off a little bit. But I don't remember what we won with in the end. It might have been the Kyurem, or it could have been Nihilego. I don't remember. This was so long ago. Oh, I remember. Yeah, I was really mad. I brought the Grassy Seed Metagross so that I could check Rillaboom, and then he didn't even bring Grassy Terrain. I even had Steel Roller and everything. I get a little bit spicier with the Wi-Fi builds. Then we took on the Columbus Cottonies, and he brought. This is like a rain team, and he ended up bringing none of the rain aspects that I had prepped for. And he beat me with like a Scarf Malamar, just like obliterating me, and a really stally Celesteela set that I absolutely could have beaten had I been more prepared. And he had like a banded Zeraora that crit my Tapu Koko that would have beaten his entire team. So this could have been a win, wasn't, but didn't really matter because in the end, in playoffs, like I said, we did win this game. But I had some fun stuff going on in this one as well. To finish our season, we were meant to play the Goblin Forest Marshadows, but I believe I got an FF win on that one because he just straight up did not show up to like 3 times that we'd agreed to. There was a Speed Boost Blaziken on that team, so I'm really glad I didn't have to play it. Could have knocked me out of first, which would have cost me a bye, and the bye was really important to take on the Columbus Cottonies again. I brought a very similar team, if not the same team. I think I brought the exact same 6 Pokemon, and I just adjusted stuff, knowing that I had like a really good chance to win this game. And he ended up dropping the Malamar and a Galarian Mr. Mime that both like really I had a hard time with in the previous game. So the one that I brought matched up a lot better against his Rain, and I had a Terrain Extender Tapu Koko for Raichu that I think won the game. I know Araquanid like had a really easy time handling Kingdra and Politoed this game. I got like an infestation off, wore down a bunch of stuff, got webs up, which was really important against the Kingdra for Kyurem, I think, to maybe clean up the game. That might have been it, but yeah. And then heading into finals, we took on Ruppy and the Columbus Swoo. So let's go in a little bit more in depth into this team. So his team that you can also see on your screen there is upside down, but it's Dracovish, Tapu Bulu, Regieleki, Durant, Nidoqueen, Umbreon, Articuno, Golurk, Reboot, Beheeyem, and Galarian Rapidash. I prepped for all of these. I'm not going to do like a full team builder section on this, but I prepped for every single mon that I could. I was really not anticipating his last 3 really to come. Reboot, Beheeyem, or Galarian Rapidash. I kind of figured that everything else had a good, solid possibility of coming. In particular, Articuno seemed to handle Lando really well on paper to me, but wasn't the best all around. So Articuno was sort of like iffy for me. I really knew that Dracovish, Tapu Bulu, Umbreon, and Nidoqueen had to come, so I knew those ones for sure. I had a feeling Durant was going to come, although Ruppy's had a history of missing moves on Durant all season. And I had a feeling that Regieleki, it was pretty much either going to be Regieleki or Golurk in my mind, out of those, like, the remaining 2. I kind of thought that Golurk had a really, really, really good offensive matchup into me, which it definitely does. And Regieleki, I thought, could abuse terrain really well, which is why I am not bringing Tapu Koko. I did not and am not bringing Tapu Koko. Despite the fact that he is Tapu Bulu, I didn't want to go for the terrain wars into this one and just give Regieleki like a boost that could have possibly ended me, because Lando was too important for, I think, Durant. And I didn't want to like split it defensively to try and handle Durant and Regieleki that could clearly be running like Swift or something to hit me. So that's sort of how I approached the building for this one. So with Arachnid, I decided I wanted to be specially defensive with Water Absorb. This is for Dracovish. Vicious Rend just makes the mon a lot less threatening when it has to click other moves because it's not really that strong. It's just the move is really powerful. So the move tied to the ability, Strong Jaw, and like a choice item is what makes it really strong. Like the coverage options are okay. Not a ton of them benefit from Strong Jaw. Like Outrage doesn't really benefit from Strong Jaw. It's just stab boosted, and it's doesn't even have like a base 100 attack. I don't think it's like base 90 attack, something along those lines. So it's not like it's the strongest mon in the world. And this was a really easy way for me to just like stop the Vicious Rend spam, which otherwise could have just destroyed the rest of my team. I figured that Webs was really valuable here actually because if the Articuno didn't come, or the Regieleki didn't come, or both didn't come, then he had no removal. And Webs really, really, really hurt the viability of things like Scarf Dracovish, things like Scarf Durant, possibly Scarf Nidoqueen. I've seen Scarf Nidoqueen before. Scarf Bulu, a lot of these things, right? That's things that he can use because he doesn't really have the speed to sort of outpace my team that he needs. And so I valued Webs highly. Toxic I just valued for the Umbreon most of the time. Get that thing on a timer and then not think about it after that. I think I had Poison Jab for the Tapu Bulu if it wanted to switch in, and then Liquidation is the last option just because it's the strongest move that Arachnid gets, and I didn't want to burn anything. I wanted to Toxic them. And so I was specially defensive, I think, as well for Nidoqueen damage and possibly Articuno. Kyurem, I brought a boot set with sub Toxic Freeze Dry Roost. This was like just max speed for something, but again, I'm not going into depth with that. But Freeze Dry really obliterated this team. The ice resists just did not exist. I mean, it's an Articuno. That's the ice resist. Durant is absolute paper. So while it technically resists ice, it takes pretty much normal damage, and Reboot is not really an option either for that. So I figured the Freeze Dry was more than enough here. And I wanted to make sure that I had Toxic for the Umbreon because that's something that I could wear down, and Toxic for the Articuno as well. Lando, I brought like a special variant with U-Turn because I knew that Grassy Terrain was coming, right? So Earth Power could handle the Nidoqueen still, and Sludge Wave could handle the Bulu still. Combine sort of put me in a weird position where I could like sit up on something and then I could actually be a legitimate threat, and then U-Turn to get my momentum off. I brought a Choice Scarf Nihilego that was designed just to like pick things off late game and go from there, and we'll sort of see how that goes. But yeah, it looked like a good idea on paper to me, depending on if I could get webs up or not. I mean, even if I couldn't get webs up, it would have been really fast, but if I could get webs up, I think I was going to be the fastest thing in the game. I think I was spec'd to outspeed Regieleki. I was spec'd to outspeed Modest Regieleki normally, so under webs I definitely would have outsped Regieleki. Hitmonchan, I brought an Assault Vest set to handle Nidoqueen further, as well as Regieleki Articuno. I just wanted to spec into that sort of side of things, because I figured that Lando was a good enough sort of defensive answer, and then Metagross, I just brought in a banded set that was just designed to like break a bunch of stuff, because it also was pretty effective. So that is the team. Let's talk about my context with Ruppy here before I move on to the actual match. Ruppy and I had played a few times before this. Let me actually just really get the numbers for you. They've all been really close as well. The most recent time we'd played in Mount Silver, and he beat me by hacking me with the Dracovish in playoffs there in a season where I'm pretty confident that I would have won. Back in the day, we had played 2 times in SAPL, which is an old Wi-Fi league that I used to be part of with him, and he beat me once and I beat him once. Both of them were 1-0s. The Mount Silver loss, he beat me 2-0, I think, and then I beat him in LET Season 3, and I think that was a 2-0 as well. So we've had some like down-to-the-wire matches heading into this one, and we were 2-2 against each other. This was going to be the tiebreak to see who was going to come out on top. And be the 3-2 team. But I knew going into this, it just had to be a close match, because that's just how things went. That's just how things have gone and how they are with myself and Ruppy. So hopefully you guys enjoy the match, and I will talk more about his team now, with the time that I have, well, while you'll see the teams on the screen. So now you have the context of the whole season, my rivalry with Ruppy, everything to do with LET, and the team that I am bringing for Ruppy. So again, hopefully you guys enjoy the championship match, my commentary, and I sincerely thank you for watching all the way through to this section. Alright, my apologies, I'm back. My voice may be desynced by a second or something to the video, just because I had to play it at the same time, and I'm just going to try and splice it together. So we see in the team builder here that he brings the Behem, which is not what I was expecting. We also see that there is no Articuno or Regieleki, which is really good for me. This means that webs hold a ton of value against his team. All of the other 5 Pokemon is what I was expecting to see. So I feel prepared for those, although less so for the Durant and the Tapu Bulu, of course, because my only physically defensive Pokemon is the Landorus, essentially. But I feel comfortable against the Nidoqueen, the Umbreon, and the Dracovish, almost certainly. So I'm going to decide to lead Kyurem here because I think it holds the most value in a lead for me against what I anticipate to either be the Tapu Bulu to get a strong hit off against either Araquanid, Landorus, or Scouting against the Metagross, the Nidoqueen, which I anticipate to lead for Rocks potentially, or the... what's the other Pokemon that could possibly lead? The Dracovish. If he wants to just get a kill, I think Kyurem leads well against all of those because Dracovish doesn't threaten the Kyurem as much, and I can get off a Freeze Dry and just kill it right away. But I was kind of anticipating that against the Nidoqueen, most likely. So I'm going to lead with my Kyurem here, and he's going to lead actually with his Tapu Bulu. And you'll notice right off the bat, and I noticed this as well, is that his Grassy Surge is going first. If you recall from the team builder, I actually was running max speed Timid Kyurem. There's no way that Tapu Bulu outspeeds that unless it is Choice Scarf. So I knew immediately that he's Choice Scarf. I know he's probably going to want to go for either a close combat or a superpower, depending on which one he's running here. Lando seems like a really easy switch in to me, and it's my check to this. Now, he will be wearing it down potentially for a Durant to come in later and really roast me, but you know, it's my best play is just switch into the Lando hard here, get the attack drop on the Bulu, see what it wants to go for. There is a possible world where the Bulu is like special and it wants to run Dazzling Gleam, but that's my play, is going into Lando here. Predicting the close combat or the superpower, that was the play here. You'll also notice that there is a chess timer on. We were playing on the land timer mode, kind of, and we're actually equal on the chess timer, but keep an eye on those chess timers because that is how much time we have left before you automatically lose the game. So I do catch him going for the close combat here with the Lando, which I thought was pretty solid for me. I think I found out that it's a Jolly Scarf based on the damage, or I wasn't able to fully determine that, but I could at least tell that it was Choice Scarf for sure. And we knew that it had close combat, so it's locked into close combat, which means that my Lando gets a free turn to get some momentum here. I think I'm not running Rocks on this. I believe I'm Calm Mind, Sludge Wave, Earth Power, and U-Turn. So what I'm going to do here is just U-Turn out because it's my best play. I know he's locked into close combat. There's no reason for him to go for that, especially if he thinks that I have Sludge Wave. So he is going to switch out into his Dracovish here, which I think is really interesting to me. It was strange to me that he wanted to go this on a potential Sludge Wave instead of like Umbreon. I think that would have made a lot more sense to me, is if he wanted to go Umbreon on the Lando rather than the Dracovish. But I think he also possibly predicted me to U-turn here and wanted me to be more pressured. The thing that he doesn't realize yet is that I am Water Absorb Araquanid, which is going to show right here. And this is free webs for me, and he can't just Vicious Rend me. So he seems to forget that that Water Absorb is a possible ability, and he's about to Vicious Rend me, and I get my webs up for free. This is really valuable webs for me, because like we've seen already, the Tapu Bulu is Choice Scarfed, and I'm running only Choice Scarf Nihilego, but by setting up the webs, he has no removal, and he's not going to be able to outspeed my Kyurem naturally anymore with the Tapu Bulu, which makes me feel a lot less threatened, even knowing that it has close combat. So I really valued this turn for me, because I essentially got my webs up for 6% of his life from grassy terrain, and he wasn't able to do anything to me. Now, I also think that he is choice locked, because it would make sense to me that he's like choice banded. So this brings me even more value thinking that he's locked into this and that Arachnid can get off a free hit here. So I believe I'm actually just going to Toxic here, predicting like the Umbreon to come in, see what's up, or like the Behemoth or the Tapu Bulu, but he's actually going to go into the Durant. So this is a really good play by him that he like avoids the Toxic. Potentially could have avoided like a liquidation from my end. I don't really know what else he would have predicted me to do against the Drakefish. Maybe a bug type attack. He was maybe anticipating like a Leech Life since he 4 times resisted liquidation. And honestly, to my credit, or to his credit, he could have been Water Absorb Drakefish as well. But instead, I am just going to go hard at Lando on the Durant. We sort of mentioned this earlier that this is my check to the Durant and the Tapu Bulu. And he's actually just going to miss the first impression with Hustle. I wasn't really sure what to expect. I was predicting Thunderfang against the Arachnid, which is why I went Lando. But either way, my Lando gets to come in and get some health back, and in turn we threaten the Durant right away here. So my best play at this point is absolutely just to click Earth Power. You know, his best bet is to go Umbreon, but he doesn't know if I'm physical or not, and Grassy Terrain is now gone. So if I am physical, then Earthquake is completely free against this team, unless the Bulu is what wants to switch in. So I'm going to Earth Power the Durant. Durant has Paper Spadef, so it's actually really easy to kill on the special side, which is another reason why I went with the special sit on the Lando. And I am going to go first because of the Sticky Webs, which tells that this is not Scarfed, otherwise it still would have outsped me. It barely lives, gets the Iron Head off, which does quite a lot of HP, and dies to its own Life Orb recoil. So I actually valued that a lot because, like, despite losing the health on Lando, I don't think, or at least I'm not anticipating that I'm going to need a lot of that health against the Tapu Bulu, which means that I am, like, still safe to come in and just get an attack drop on it. And even if I do die to the Tapu Bulu, I get the attack drop on it, which means I can go into something like a Kyurem. It still can't lock itself into close combat, which means it has to cook a grass move, which also potentially means that Metagross is very free against the Tapu Bulu. I'm not entirely sure where the line is in terms of his damage, because I don't think I've determined if this is Jolly or Advent yet, but that's always possible. So he does go into the Dracovish, which is caught in the webs. This means that it's a really free U-turn for me, and I am just going to go directly into the Arachnid, because I think Vicious Rend is arguably his best play. It's probably not, given that he knows that I have Water Absorb, but Arachnid is designed to handle the Dracovish, and it's gotten webs up, so it has done its job already. I get the chip off with the U-turn, knowing that it's slower than me, because of the webs that the Arachnid set. And we will see what he wants to go in here. What he wants to go into here. You know, we're pretty early into this game, and we've both already used quite a bit of our chest timers. Already a fifth of mine is gone. Over a fifth of his is gone. Chest timer is quite valuable in comparison to just a flat 60-minute timer, just because you need to get your turns off a little bit faster, but I'm going to catch up to him a little bit, but it took me a little while to figure out where I wanted to go with this, and I was sort of calculating how much bulk this had. He does lock in himself into Outrage, which is a 2-shot against my Arachnid, so I decide that I'm going to now double into Metagross on the Outrage. He obviously doesn't have an option, he just has to click Outrage, so he gets a really free chest time return here, where he's pressuring me because I have to go into a resistance or I have to sack the Arachnid, and I would rather go into resistance here because I still value having the Vicious Rend immunity, especially with Lando still alive. And I'm the one that has to make the switch, right? So he gets the momentum out of that a little bit here. So we're going to go into the Metagross, and we just chew this Outrage. It's not really doing pretty much anything to me, because I believe this is Jolly Scarf? I can't remember. I think it's Scarfed, actually. I'm pretty sure it's Jolly Scarfed. I think he brought 2 Scarfers with the Bulu and the Dracovish. At minimum 2 Scarfers, right? Because I did mention in the team builder Nidoqueen could be Scarf, and I was actually really scared of triple Scarf with Nidoqueen as well. None of it matters now that my webs are up and he didn't bring removal, but there you go. What I'm going to want to do here is just Ice Punch. I know that he's locked into Outrage. This is my best play. We saw that he can get confused, so my best play is just to get a Banded Ice Punch off here. There's actually no Ice Punch resist now that the Durant is dead, so we get a huge chunk off against the Dracovish. He is finally out of his Outrage. He gets his 3 turns of Outrage. I was kind of lucky that he only got 3 turns, actually, but I think in the end, locking into Ice Punch was always my best play regardless. He is going to switch here, and I'm just going to keep clicking Ice Punch because I know that the Dracovish is locked into Outrage. It's not going to want to stay in and try and Outrage again unless it just wants to die for free, which I'm also okay with. And, oh, I know why. We know that it's Scarf because it's still speeding me, even between webs. But he's just going to go into his Umbreon here, and we sort of get to gauge what sort of investment this Umbreon has. I believe it's, like, especially defensive based on the damage that it took from this Ice Punch. It's a reasonable amount from Ice Punch. I mean, it's not a stab Ice Punch. It's a fairly weak move, 75 base power, but it's effective against a lot of his team. Sort of catches like Bulu and Nidoqueen all at the same time, as well as hitting Dracovish for neutral damage, which I felt was valuable considering it resists Steel. Although at this stage of the game, it doesn't really care if it resists Steel. You'll note that both of us have like 650 on our timers. I'm going to switch into Hitmonchan to resist the Foul Play. I know that I'm dying to Foul Play. Absolutely. I would have died to Foul Play from full HP because I'm banded. So I need to go into my Foul Play resist here, which is the Hitmonchan. And Hitmonchan immediately threatens the Umbreon out. In my mind, at least, it immediately threatens the Umbreon out. I believe it does anyways, but yeah. So I think that this threatens the Umbreon out. He does have a good few, like, fighting resists left, right, with the Behemoth, the Bulu, and the Nidoqueen. So what I'm going to do is actually just click the Ice Punch anyways. I think that it's my best move to click with Hitmonchan here regardless. Drain Punch would be fine, but he's got the resists, so I may as well just Ice Punch. That's my thought process in this one. Although I do think that he's probably not going to go hard Nidoqueen right away on the Hitmonchan because he would want to scout for that. You know, I've shown the Ice Punch on the Metagross. I haven't really made predictions all that much this game. You know, I made the one prediction play with the Lando, but it was a really easy read for me knowing that he was locked into close combat. What he's going to do is actually just sack off the Dracovish, which I agree with. If this doesn't threaten anything, it's actually slower than the Kyurem and the Lando and the Nihilego guaranteed. He knows that, regardless of the item on the Nihilego, it's getting outsped. So he only would have outsped the Metagross, and I still have my Fishless Rendancer and the Araquanid. So at this stage of the game, I think Araquanid's actually pretty expendable to me. The only thing that I'm really trying to keep it around for is to Toxic the Umbreon, in a worst case, but also Kyurem has Toxic for the Umbreon too, so I have a couple of options there to get that going. What he's going to do is take his opportunity to seize the Hitmonchan being in here, and he's going to get his Behemoth in, which really benefits him actually, because again, I don't have any counterplay to this Behemoth, and Hitmonchan can't really touch this. I didn't bring like any dark coverage moves or anything like that to hit this, so I'm kind of just going to have to like play Ring Around the Rosie a little bit with the Behemoth to sort of scout out what set it is, what it can do to my team, what I can like willingly give up here. To be honest, I've taken out 2 of his offensive threats already, so in my mind, I'm really only scared of like offensive Nidoqueen, which I want to keep Hitmonchan around for, the Scarf Bulu that we know is choice locked at the very least, and then Umbreon doesn't really threaten like Kyurem. Like I think Kyurem can beat Umbreon in a 1v1. As long as it doesn't have Heal Bell. So what I'm going to do is swap here into my Nihilego. You know, I believe I could have taken a Psychic, but I was also just sacking the Nihilego because I didn't really value it, and that sounds weird of me to say, but like, it doesn't hold a lot of value against the rest of this team, right? Like, it beats the Bulu, loses to Nidoqueen presumably, and loses to Umbreon in a 1v1 because Nihilego just can't break that. So he sets up the Trick Room though, which is really bad for me, and definitely means that the second Nihilego here was my best play. He does crits. It's completely irrelevant. I didn't even write down that he crit me because it's so irrelevant, but 3 turns of Trick Room left. This just means that I have to burn another one. I can't afford to sack 3 more Mons, so I need to burn at least 1 turn so that I can sack like 1 or 2 things left the Behemoth before I can like punish it while it's trying to set another Trick Room or just kill it outright. I believe we saw that it's Life Orb now, so that's worthwhile information, and I believe I'm just going to go out into Araquanid here. Notably, again, our chess timers are identical, so we're taking about the same time to sort of think about how we want to play this out. He doesn't have to think here, obviously, so my chest timer is going to go down a little bit more, but I believe I'm just going to go into Araquanid because it's specially defensive, and I think that I can take a Life Orb Psychic. The fact that he's slower in Trick Room, it actually benefits me a lot, so I think this is Analytic Behem, and it's under Webs in Trick Room, so it's absolutely the slowest thing in the game, no doubt. But because I think it's analytic, it's not gonna get that power boost against the Araquanid, which means that I should live and get a hit off. Now, because I am Water Absorb, I'm not gonna get as much damage off as I would have if I was Water Bubble. But all of the damage is relevant. Setting this thing up to be killed, or like forcing him to waste a turn and recover, really, really, really benefits me, I think. So I'm just gonna get the hit off, and then we die. There'll be one turn of Trick Room left, I believe, at the end of this. And I know that he can't kill my Kyurem from full health. I'm still iffy on what like coverage moves he has, so I don't want to go into Metagross, because I think Metagross is one of the most valuable things. Metagross and Kyurem both are really valuable against the remaining 3 targets. But I know that he's going to want to abuse this last turn of Trick Room, like absolutely for sure. At this stage of health, he's not going to be able to handle Hitmonchan and set up a Trick Room on the Hitmonchan anymore, so I'm fairly confident he's just going to stay in here, which is why I just go into my Kyurem in a second, once I finally decide that I'm going to Kyurem. I know that I go into Kyurem here. We're going to let the Behem get off a hit and then kill it. Run out the Trick Room and then see what he wants to do after that. And we'll sort of see where the chest timers are at after that. My chest timer has been going down a lot faster than his has, because I've had to think harder about this Behem turns because I didn't prepare for the Behem, right? So now I'm over a full minute actually behind him on the chest timer, which is really bad for me in context. You know, if he's up on the chest timer, that just means that he has a full advantage, especially with an Umbreon in his team. He can just really like click buttons with the Umbreon. It's so fat that I'm not necessarily going to be able to break it right away. But yeah, my strategy is I know that I can't just die outright to this in one hit. My Kyurem is, you know, it's just the natural bulk. I'm not running that much bulk, but it's the natural bulk. And I just want to kill this thing. So he's just going to Psychic again and do a tremendous amount of damage to me. But we finally get rid of this Behem right on the last turn of Trick Room, which means Kyurem is going to outspeed everything naturally. This should, in theory, force him to go into Umbreon, which is exactly what I want, because I want to Toxic that thing. But he could also go Nidoqueen and sort of threaten me with like a Rock Slide sort of Nidoqueen. I mean, Sludge Wave would kill me from this area, but my plan, I think, is just to like Roost on the Nidoqueen, see what it wants to go for. If it's the Bulu, I think my plan is absolutely just to Freeze Dry it. You know, that makes things a little bit harder against the Umbreon, but if I can get damage or just like kill off the Bulu or the Nidoqueen at this point, then Hitmonchan can still handle the Umbreon. So he is going to go into the Umbreon, which again gives me a free Toxic play. In theory, a free Toxic play. He's still got a minute up on me on the chest timer, even after like taking a little bit to decide what he wants to go into there. I think I actually Roost this turn as he gets a Toxic off, because I want to be healthier for the... I still value the Kyurem for the Nidoqueen and the Bulu, especially as a Grass Resist. But yeah, so instead of just him synchronizing Toxic back once I eventually Toxic this Umbreon, he's just got the Toxic on me already, which means my Kyurem's going to have to switch first. Not the biggest deal in the world for me, because Hitmonchan is going to be my response to the Umbreon most of the time, regardless. This turn, I am going to Toxic him, as he's going to Foul Play me. You know, the chest timer's getting into the dire straits here. You know, we're both below 5 minutes. I'm at like 3 minutes and 30. He's at 4 minutes and 30. So it's just, he doesn't have a full minute on me anymore, but he does have a fair amount of time. My Toxic timer is going off faster than his, and his Foul Play damage is going to do more to me than any of my Freeze Dries will ever do to him. But the Toxic is on now. We've seen Toxic and Foul Play from the Umbreon. We don't know the full moveset. He could still have Heal Bell, which would make this exchange completely not worth it for me. But because I know that he's just going to like Foul Play again or Heal Bell, I'm going to take this time and use this turn to go into Hitmonchan. And the reason for that is because I want to threaten this Umbreon out. I don't care about the Toxic timer on it right now. I just want to threaten it out or like gauge what his play is going to be into the Hitmonchan. The foul play does a lot of damage, but it's still not going to kill me from this range, not yet at least. And so my play with the Hitmonchan, is always going to be to Ice Punch, because I think I threaten the Umbreon. I think we both know that he needs the Umbreon for the Kyurem, but maybe I'm valuing the Kyurem a little bit too much. And the reason I'm saying that is because he's actually going to switch out of the Umbreon here. And he knows that the Kyurem is on a timer. Now, despite it threatening both of his remaining offensive, or presumably offensive, Pokemon left, it is on a timer, it's weakened. I can't necessarily just roost in front of things. So I'm going to Ice Punch here, thinking, I want to like catch something. He's actually just going to take the opportunity to foul play. So he's made a couple of predictions here. I've made a couple of predictions. My predictive Ice Punch the previous time they caught the Dracovish didn't really gain me anything because the Dracovish was just being sacked regardless. And what he's going to do here is make a really obvious play that I don't bother reading because I think that I'm on the front foot. And I still stand by the fact that I think that I'm on the front foot for here. But I'm just going to Drain Punch, and he's going to go into one of the Drain Punch resists. Both of them would have resisted Drain Punch. Just to get a little bit of HP back, I want to make sure that I can live a foul play, or I could have just killed the Umbreon outright. And the Umbreon is unfortunately still alive, but it is weakened quite heftily. It's going to have to heal at some point. If it does have... that actually did a lot more damage than I remember. Oh, it crit. That's why. So I get a bunch more HP back from the critical hit, as well as the grassy terrain. Again, we know that this is Scarfulu, but it does outspeed based on it getting healing first. So I need to double into my Lando, which doesn't really hold much value for me. It can beat Nidoqueen kind of, but it's more important to get the Intimidate off on this Bulu, unless I wanted to just sack the Kyurem here, which I don't really want to do right away. So I'm going to switch into Lando. My Hitmonchan's still not at a point where it can live a foul play from Umbreon, so I need to be careful about that. But I think it's still valuable enough for me to keep against the Umbreon because I know that Metagross is weak to foul play. So I'm going to try and get the Umbreon still in. I'm now under 3 minutes on the chess timer. Again, he's got a 1 minute lead on me. And he's just going to Wood Hammer, and even at -1, I just died of the Wood Hammer. So all I really got out of that is a little bit of recoil damage on him. Not all that much, because he's going to heal back most, if not all of it, from the Grassy Terrain. But I get him at -1. And that's important, because now we know this is locked into Wood Hammer, and it's -1. This gives me a free Metagross. And honestly, Metagross just basically gets to do whatever it wants. Again, I'm in a position where he can't switch out. So I'm actually just going to Ice Punch because it's the best damage I have for Nidoqueen right now. Meteor Mash is an option, but I don't think it's a viable option in case I miss against the Nidoqueen. So I'm relying on the 100% accurate move here. I'm just going to Ice Punch the Bulu. He's still faster than me because I'm not running his speed. He's just going to sack off the Bulu here, and I'm going to be able to kill it with the Metagross, which I think is a solid trade for me because the Bulu definitely threatened the Hitmonchan more than Nidoqueen does. Nidoqueen, because I'm Assault Vest, I believe Nidoqueen does not kill me with an Earth Power from this range, which is what I would imagine it's going to click against a Metagross. But the Metagross is in. There's a weakened Umbreon and a Nidoqueen left, right? So Ice Punch is a pretty solid move for me to be locked in here. It basically gives me a free turn against the Umbreon. If he wants to kill me, whatever, Kyurem plus Hitmonchan can beat the Nidoqueen still. So I'm definitely on the front foot despite my timer being very low. I'm down to 2.5 minutes and he's at 3.5 minutes. Unfortunately, you can see there that he's just slightly under a half. My Ice Punch is not going to kill him. There's no chance for my Ice Punch to kill him, but I'm going to go for it anyways, because I figure he has to heal, and now he shows me his healing move, it's Moonlight. So he only has one other move left on his Umbreon here. I don't think that it is Protect. Based on what we've seen, I figure he would have protected at some point against the Kyurem, instead of just letting me Toxic his Umbreon. But he's going to heal up quite a lot with the Moonlight plus the Grassy Terrain there. Toxic's not doing enough yet because he just switched in. At this point, he's definitely free to go for a foul play. So I believe that I actually just go straight into Hitmonchan. And I guess I misspoke earlier, because I do live this foul play, and I get some HP back with the grassy terrain. And I know that I live the foul play, which is why I switched into this, so unless he crit me. But now this is a really easy drain punch for me again. Depending on how much he values the Umbreon here, if he doesn't value the Umbreon, he's probably in a losing position either way with the Nidoqueen at this stage, so it's probably a bad play for me to drain punch here, but I'm going to go for it anyways. The fact that the grassy terrain is gone actually does help, because my Hitmonchan does have Earthquake for Regieleki, but also will be able to hit the Nidoqueen for the hardest damage. Iron Fist boosted Ice Punch is not quite enough damage to be able to take that out. So I'm going to Drain Punch here, and we'll sort of see if I'm going to be able to like get enough HP back against the Umbreon where I can like still beat it, or what he's going to do. But he's actually going to switch into the Nidoqueen. So this is our first venture into the Nidoqueen here. And I'm going to garner that this has HP investment based on the attack coming off here. So we now realize that this is not Choice Scarfed. It's much more likely to be a Life Orb set than before. And unfortunately, Hitmonchan doesn't live to a Life Orb set either. But I do think that this is a fairly significant turn for me in terms of like gauging the damage that I can do to the Nidoqueen. And maybe what the Nidoqueen's going to dish back. My Hitmonchan is still valuable to me. I really think that it's still valuable to me against the Umbreon, because it's the best bet that I have to like just outright kill the Umbreon at this stage. So I'm going to want to preserve this, and I'm actually going to switch into my Kyurem to see what this wants to do. I could potentially just sack the Kyurem. Maybe I live, and I get a hit off with the Kyurem, which would also be fine by me. Just any chance that I can get to get Hitmonchan in for free against the Umbreon, or Metagross in for free against the Nidoqueen. He is going to Earth Power me. It does not kill me, but the toxic damage that the Umbreon did earlier is going to pick off the Kyurem for me. Luckily, this is a free Metagross. He's got about a minute and a half on me in terms of the chest timer now, which is really worrying. But I think I have a solid game plan at this point of how I want to execute the final few turns. I don't know what the Nidoqueen is. What I've sort of gauged from the damage, especially the damage against the Kyurem, which was actually very important, tells me this is not Life Orb. It tells me it's not Life Orb, but it is slightly invested, I believe. So my initial thought is that this is possibly Shukaberry, and I might be losing the game if this is Shukaberry. It's also possibly Yachi Berry, which would make a lot of sense for the Araquanid, not the Araquanid, sorry, the Kyurem, and like Ice Punching Metagross. And there's a possibility it's Payapa Berry for Psychic Nihilego, which is the only way that Nihilego has to hit Nidoqueen. So if this is his Nihilego check, then he's possibly Payapa Berry to make sure that he can absolutely kill Nihilego. So I go to my Metagross. My best play here is just outright killing this, right? So I believe I just click Meteor Mash outright. It's just my best play against the Nidoqueen, is getting off as much damage as possible so that Hitmonchan can kill this and then Drain Punch the Umbreon, and then I can guaranteed win the Umbreon 1v1 with Hitmonchan. Luckily, or unluckily for me, he's actually going to go into the Umbreon, and he's just going to try and like live a hit and foul play me. Unfortunately for him, he's not living two of these, so yeah, he gets a bit punished by this play with the Meteor Mash. He would have lived with Nidoqueen, I believe. I don't think it was killing him, but I was sort of positioning myself to win with Hitmonchan. What he is hoping for now is for me to miss, but I'm not going to miss. So we're going to be able to pick off the Umbreon here with Metagross. I noticed my chest timer is below a minute, and I'm like, okay, I have to be crisp on these button clicks to sort of finish this one out. It's now Nidoqueen against the world. Nidoqueen will live a Meteor Mash, but we'll see if it can handle the Hitmonchan afterwards, right? This is where webs sort of come into play a lot more, in the fact that my Hitmonchan will outspeed this in what would normally be a speed tie when they're both uninvested speed-wise. But because we hit that Meteor Mash, the Nidoqueen is not in a position to be able to live any of the hits from Hitmonchan, regardless of if it's Shukaberry or not. And so while he is able to kill my Metagross at the end here, I am just going to be able to switch into my Hitmonchan and finish off this Nidoqueen with Earthquake. Now, this is this would have been scary if he was Choice Scarf Nidoqueen. He told me after the match that he was actually Assault Vested Nidoqueen. So there's no way that this was outspeeding me. Regardless of my Chest Hammer, I had already clicked Earthquake. I just needed the 100% accurate move. And so we're just going to be able to pick off the Nidoqueen and win our first Wi-Fi championship, winning LET Season 8 Ultra Ball Finals against my good pal Ruppy. At the end there, you can see he had 2 minutes 20 left. I had 30 seconds left. If this game had gone on much longer, he would have won by timer. You know, he had a whole minute and 50 seconds on me. It's pretty brutal, pretty brutal there. So the video is done now. So you guys will just hear my voice over probably a black screen, or maybe I'll have a picture of the Ultra Ball logo up. But that's the season. We win 1-0, so we take home the title. This is my first Wi-Fi title. This is my first title in a while as well. I hadn't really won a championship since ABDL Season 2, which was a very long time ago as of this recording. I think it was over a year and a half ago as of the time I'm recording this, and maybe a year and a third ago as of the time that I played this finals match. So I felt really good about this. You know, I hadn't had the best success with Wi-Fi. My first season in LET, I went 12-3, really dominant. I finished first in the whole league, and then I choked in a semifinals match against some bullshit speed pass from Mega Scissor into Necrozma, which just was not fun to play against at all, and I would never wish that upon anyone, especially in a Wi-Fi setting. And then after that, I sort of fell off a cliff a little bit in terms of the Wi-Fi, but I also think that other people just got better than me faster than, and I wasn't able to catch up until now. But I pointed this out in the Team Builder section. It is worthy to note that the competition wasn't super duper high. But I do also want to point out that Ruppy has played me in a few leagues and beaten me in playoffs a couple of times prior to this. So it's not like he's an absolute pushover of a player. In fact, I would say that he's probably the second strongest player in the division behind me. So it's not like I won just an unskilled finals, but I did want to point out that the division wasn't as strong as Master Ball, where I could have been playing in Master Ball potentially, right? I think Master Ball would have given me a much harder time. I probably don't get the bye right away. I'm probably not going 6-1 after picking up the team either, so there's a lot to be said for that. But I do want to shout out all of LET for just existing, Eco for creating that in the first place, as well as giving me a shot here to take over a team. This is my retirement from Wi-Fi play. I don't really have any interest in continuing with this. LAN play was extremely frustrating for me through a lot of the season, a lot of the early season. All of the bugs sort of ironed themselves out after I stopped playing Europeans later on. Once I didn't have to play a European, I never really had any problems connecting or anything like that. But it was a tedious setup, and the time invested in a Wi-Fi league is about 2 times what it would take me for a Showdown league. Besides that, I'm really not doing Showdown leagues that much anymore either. I'm kind of just winding down the whole draft thing for now. And so this was a nice send-off for me from the Wi-Fi leagues and the Wi-Fi community in general. I love the guys in LET, but I'm not going to be returning. So I wanted to thank everyone involved in the season for letting me play and letting me win, I guess. But yeah, so that's going to be for me. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I will catch you guys for either our next championship or whatever video you look forward to next.